Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. NFL legend and icon O.J. Simpson died today at 76 years old in Las Vegas. Now, O.J. Simpson died as a result of a long, protracted battle with prostate cancer and died in the presence of his children and his grandchildren. Now, O.J. Simpson will be known for being a famous NFL player, and he will be infamously known for being the defendant of what was called the trial of the century. Now, Orenthal James Simpson started out when he was young, being a prodigy as related to football, and as he played football in high school and college, he eventually became a Heisman Trophy winner, and after he became a Heisman Trophy winner, he was picked by the Buffalo Bills in the NFL draft and had a legendary career as a running back in the NFL for over 10 years. And during that 10 years where he played football in the 1970s and 1980s, O.J. Simpson, who was known as the Juice, was known for having a great career as a running back and was also known for having a great personality and presence, and that made him a great spokesman for numerous companies like Hertz Rent-A-Car and the Dingo Western Boot Company, which oftentimes ran comic book ads which called him O.J. Dingo as they sold the boots, and Jimmy Walker talked about him all the time on Good Times, talking about how he was one of the role models as related to a running gag. Now, O.J. Simpson, as his football career winded down, started doing acting in addition to his ads that he did as endorsements, and he was a regular on the cable show known as First and 10. Now, this show basically was one that basically foreshadowed O.J. Simpson's own personal life, where he originally was married to a black woman from the 1970s up until about 1979, and then after the death of one of his sons, his whole marriage wound up falling apart to that black woman, and eventually O.J. Simpson wound up divorcing his black wife, but then got involved with a white female waitress, Nicole Brown, and as he got involved with Nicole Brown, he was still going on to have success as related to his career as an actor, going from First and 10 to having a supporting role in the Naked Gun movie series and having even more success. However, as he was having success as related to graduating from cable TV shows to the big screen, his second relationship with Nicole Brown wound up deteriorating, and it deteriorated to the point where there was a situation where O.J. Simpson was arrested for alleged domestic violence. Now, as the relationship between O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown deteriorated, O.J. Simpson was moving through the 90s and looking to move forward in his career after the success of the Naked Gun movies. However, his entire life wound up completely changing after a day in 1994 when his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson was found dead at her home, in front of her home, next to the body of waiter Ron Goldman. And this is where O.J. Simpson's life took a major change, as he was accused of the murder of his ex-wife Nicole Brown, a white woman, and Ron Goldman, another white man, who was seen in front of that home, and with the murder of these two people as a result of them being allegedly stabbed, O.J. Simpson was seen as the prime suspect by prosecutor Marcia Clark, a prosecutor who wanted to say that O.J. Simpson participated in the murder of his ex-wife and Ron Goldman because he was still obsessed with her. Now, this whole argument led to the biggest controversy of the 1990s and led to O.J. Simpson being arrested and charged for the murder of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, and this turned into what the mainstream media called, at the time, the trial of the century. Now, this was a trial of the century basically because the whole case was based on race, and it was based on race primarily because prosecutor Marcia Clark wanted to make O.J. Simpson the prime suspect as related to this case without ever doing any sort of objective investigation, in my opinion. She didn't want to do any sort of objective investigation. She just ran on O.J. Simpson, hoping to try to get a quick conviction of a celebrity because she basically had stars in her eyes, and because she had stars in her eyes, she rushed to charge O.J. Simpson for this murder without ever doing any sort of investigation into the background of Nicole Brown Simpson. And she basically, I believe, did this because the LAPD was basically dealing with a series of cases where they had that basically tore the city apart, because previously we had the case of Rodney King and a case of Latasha Harlins, and with both of those cases leading to the white and Asian individuals getting acquitted, what they wanted to do was get a big win in order to try to fix the reputation of the prosecutor's office as related to criminal cases. Because with the case of Rodney King, the police basically got acquitted because they moved the case to Simi Valley, and the jury, even in the face of evidence of a man being beaten on video, went out here and acquitted these rogue police officers. And in the case of Latasha Harlins, even though they got a guilty conviction, there was no criminal sentence for the Asian woman who shot Latasha Harlins. And many of the people wanted to speculate that they wanted to use the O.J. Simpson case as a way to try to get things back so that the prosecutors could get a big win. And what the prosecutor's office did was they went out here and recruited a predominantly black jury to get this trial on. And as they recruited this predominantly black jury, they went and created a whole media circus around this case, a whole media circus based on the feelings of the prosecutor's office, but not really based on any sort of fact, because there wasn't really an objective investigation as I was seeing it, watching it go on when I was in college. I mean, as I was in college and I was watching this investigation, that really was not really objective. And what happened with this case is that it became one big circus, a big circus where the prosecutors were hoping to get a big win over a black celebrity as they looked to promote a narrative of that black celebrity being a black brute who was violent against a white woman. However, when you take a critical look at the evidence really wasn't there as related to getting a conviction at all, because O.J. Simpson's timeline wasn't adding up, one, and two, O.J. Simpson was pursuing other white women, like a Playboy model. So the whole motivation for him being so-called obsessed with Nicole Brown, which basically was a racist narrative designed to present O.J. Simpson as a black brute who was lusting after a white woman, this wasn't adding up. Moreover, the evidence itself wasn't adding up, and over the course of this trial, it led to a climax where Johnny Cochran had O.J. Simpson put on one of the alleged bloody gloves that the killer was wearing, and as O.J. Simpson put on that glove in front of a live televised audience, because they basically televised this trial every day to the point where they were preempting soap operas and talk shows all throughout the entire year of 1994 and 95, to the point where it reached the climax when O.J. Simpson put on the gloves and the gloves did not fit. Now, when the gloves did not fit, it basically wound up destroying the prosecutor's case as related to their entire case against O.J. Simpson, and the whole case with the gloves showed that O.J. Simpson possibly could not be the killer. Now, those gloves, basically, when gloves that are leather are wet, what they do is they expand, because I've had leather gloves, and leather gloves expand. And the whole thing is, they were saying that the gloves contracted, but the whole thing is, when a leather glove is wet, it expands and the leather stretches. So there's clearly these gloves did not fit, and the other evidence, such as the socks, didn't add up, nor did Detective Mark Furman's statement about him seeing blood on the Bronco add up. None of this stuff really added up as related to the case against O.J. Simpson, and this case that the Los Angeles prosecutor's office was hoping to get a big win on turned into a big disaster when the jury quickly returned with a verdict of not guilty. Now, this verdict of not guilty basically exploded all across America, and most Americans were shocked at this whole verdict. Many Americans were shocked at this verdict, and it basically led to a division between race, with many whites and non-blacks believing O.J. Simpson was guilty, and many black people believing that O.J. Simpson was innocent, and many believing that O.J. Simpson was innocent based on the evidence. Now, some wanted to speculate that the jury basically did this to punish the prosecutor's office for the verdicts against Rodney King and Latasha Harlins. However, I don't believe that at all. I believe that based on the evidence that was presented, the poor quality evidence, and the rushed investigation, this is what led to the outcome of the O.J. Simpson trial, because according to the Constitution, again, this man was innocent until proven guilty, and as he was innocent until proven guilty, there was no proof that he had a motive to murder Nicole Brown or Ron Goldman, and the prosecutor's office did not investigate Nicole Brown's alleged involvement with members of organized crime or investigate other avenues as related to this case, and again was looking to get a big win publicly, but wound up with an embarrassment overall. Unfortunately, after the O.J. Simpson trial, that's when we saw a really bad situation for black people in this country, as many people started to take out their anger at black people. And they took their anger out at black people in Hollywood because of O.J. Simpson's acquittal. This is where we started to see a lot of black people in Hollywood start buck dancing and bojangling after all the progress we made with people like Bill Cosby as related to the black image. We started to see a lot of black people buck dancing and bojangling. Moreover, we started to see a lot of black TV shows and film projects getting canceled, all due to the passive-aggressive nature of many whites and non-blacks who were extremely upset about O.J. Simpson being acquitted by this predominantly black jury. And the thing that I believe really upset them was seeing a black jury going out here and taking power to, as they thought, meting out biased acquittal of O.J. Simpson. But when I look at that jury, they were basically going on the preponderance of the evidence, and as they looked at the speculated timeline where they saw the limo driver coming to O.J. Simpson's home, they just saw how it didn't add up, and they saw how it didn't add up because time on the L.A. freeways and the L.A. city streets basically wouldn't have given O.J. Simpson time to possibly commit this crime and then come back home. If you think about it critically, it wouldn't have given him time to be able to get back home from the Bronco to go meet up with someone. Moreover, the blood evidence just didn't add up, and the whole situation just seems really far-fetched for a then 40-plus-year-old man to be able to have the strength to take on two individuals and attack them violently. The whole pattern of evidence didn't add up. Unfortunately, many racists were so caught up in their feelings about the black man being a super brute, and they wanted to project that narrative onto O.J. Simpson. And because they wanted to project that narrative onto O.J. Simpson, they wanted to make him out to be this super brute predator who was out here lusting after white women. And what they wanted to do in order to get the LA prosecutor's office a big win, was go out here and participate in a lynching in their criminal justice system. That was the original plan as related to the infamous O.J. Simpson trial that wound up blowing up in America's face. And after O.J. Simpson was acquitted, this is what led to many whites and non-blacks getting so upset. A lot of them got upset because a black man beat them at their own game in their criminal justice system. But this was ironically the criminal justice system working the way it was written to work out, because the original standard of, again, our criminal justice system is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and a person is supposed to be innocent, and if you cannot prove the case, then that person is supposed to go free. So this is what upset many of the people who were white and non-black in the system of white supremacy. What upset them is that here you had a black man basically being able to beat the criminal justice system and be able to beat the criminal justice system and make it actually fair. That's what upset many of the whites and non-blacks as related to the O.J. Simpson trial from 1994 to 1995, and people are still upset about the O.J. Simpson trial. And after O.J. Simpson was acquitted, there was a whole vendetta against this man, and again, a vendetta against this man because they continued to come after him with a civil trial. And after they came after him with a civil trial, they basically took a lot of his things, like his Heisman Trophy and his accolades and awards, and looked to destroy them. And this, again, is what was white supremacists participating in what I call pre-cancel culture, because they wanted to cancel O.J. Simpson for having the audacity to go to trial and get acquitted based on the facts of the evidence, and also going out here and hiring a dream team, a black man actually using the power that he had as a man and using his own wealth to defend himself. This was a case of a black man making the field level, and many of the whites and non-blacks out here were extremely upset. They were extremely upset that O.J. Simpson basically wound up beating them at their own game. And as they got upset about O.J. Simpson beating them at their own game, they wanted to get a symbolic or Pyrrhic victory. They wanted to get a Pyrrhic victory. This is why you had the Goldmans and the Browns file a civil lawsuit against O.J. Simpson and got a liability judgment against him. A liability judgment that really didn't do much outside of getting some memorabilia like his Heisman Trophy and destroying his personal property. I mean, it didn't really do much to O.J. Simpson, but it made many of these racists and white supremacists feel like they got a win, even though they wound up losing, because many of these racists basically, they just wanted to go out here and hurt O.J. Simpson because they didn't like the idea of a black man having wealth or success, and moreover having the economic power to actually fight them back in their criminal justice system. That's the thing that burned up a lot of these white folks, is the fact that you had a black man out here who had the money and the power to go out here and hire a talented dream team of lawyers to defend him, and have the money and the power to push back against the system of white supremacy, and push back against the system of white supremacy using the very rules of white supremacy. That's what upsets many of these white racists out here regarding O.J. Simpson. And I find it quite ironic because O.J. Simpson was not a pro-black person. No, O.J. Simpson was not a pro-black person. No, O.J. Simpson basically was a sellout and a bootlick. And what's really interesting is that the sellout and the bootlick fought harder for his black rights than they expected. They expected O.J. Simpson to just roll over like every other black bootlick does, but instead what he did was fight back because he thought he was an individual, and this individual fought them back. And this is the thing that upset many of the white folks as related to that civil trial and them looking to get that Pyrrhic win. And later on in O.J. Simpson's life, as he was going on, because he would continue to play golf and live off his NFL pension, which they could not touch, things got crazy around 2008 or 2009 or so, when O.J. Simpson wound up getting arrested in federal court. And as he got arrested in federal court, he wound up getting convicted for this other crime and wound up spending about 9 years in prison. And this was before he wound up trying to sell a book in order to keep his property, because he was about to lose his property. He wound up writing a book trying to appease white supremacy called If I Did It. However, there was such anger and backlash regarding that book that it basically led to the book getting canceled, and it also led to the termination of Judith Regan, the publisher of Regan Books, for having the audacity to publish a book called If I Did It to pay O.J. Simpson money. And the money, basically, he got it for the book in advance, and the whole thing was that Ron Goldman's father got upset, and he and many others out here got so upset to the point where they wound up making it where all of these books wound up never going for sale. That's how upset people still were about O.J. Simpson. And O.J. Simpson, after again being convicted in connection with an armed robbery in Las Vegas in 2007, not 2009, he wound up getting arrested and wound up being put into prison, at federal prison, and then eventually wound up on parole. And then after winding up on parole in 2017, O.J. Simpson has been living quietly in Las Vegas until this whole prostate cancer diagnosis. Now, when O.J. Simpson got this cancer diagnosis, this basically happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe, because I was reading about it in the news about O.J. Simpson having a prostate cancer battle, and I was talking about it with my family, and I didn't expect him to wind up passing away so quickly. I mean, when I think about how he passed away, it really reminded me of what happened with my late sister, who was handicapped. She wound up passing away so quickly, but it just shows how fast cancer can just basically take a life. And O.J. Simpson sadly wound up losing his life as a result of his brief battle with prostate cancer, and he was surrounded by his family as he passed away. And after he passed away, this is where we see social media exploding and many racists going out here and expressing their contempt for O.J. Simpson. And as they express their contempt for O.J. Simpson, we really see where people are as related to this whole situation, because the O.J. Simpson case basically wound up polarizing America based on race, and it wound up polarizing America based on race because many people out here, they were projecting things onto this case and never thinking critically or objectively about the evidence. That's what I saw growing up when I was in college in late 1994. I was about to graduate from college, and I was looking for a job in 1995. As I was in the middle of my job search and going to school, I looked at the evidence of this case, and many of my classmates looked at the evidence of this case, and we were looking at it and saying that this possibly was a case with drug dealers, because oftentimes with drug dealers, if you don't pay them what you owe them, they will take you out. But the whole thing is that you had people, again, in LA and in the mainstream media, they wanted to make this case racial because they were upset about the idea of this rich black man being involved with this white woman, and they projected narratives of this black man being a black brute onto this black man. And as they projected these narratives onto this black man, they wanted to see a version of a lynching take place, not because this man committed any crime, but because he, I believe, had the audacity to go out and get involved with this white woman. And as he had this relationship with this white woman, I believe that this is the thing they really wanted to punish O.J. Simpson for, just like they are punishing Jonathan Majors right now. It was all about white supremacy looking to punish a black man for having the audacity to get involved with a white woman. That was the core reason for this case, and the prosecutor's office wanted to get a big win for white supremacy by putting this black brute away with an Asian judge, a white female prosecutor and a black male prosecutor. They wanted to go passively promoting their diversity and inclusion as they promoted anti-black racism, and that, I believe, was the core reason for rushing to try to make O.J. Simpson the prime suspect in this murder. And the saddest part is, even though O.J. Simpson has died, the wounds that were created as related to these racists are still deep, because this is the first time they actually had to take an L, and this is the first time they had to take an L in their criminal justice system, and many are still seething and angry that O.J. Simpson was acquitted, and they are upset that they will never be able to deal with that loss. I mean, even though they got their symbolic Pyrrhic victories in civil and federal court, they're still angry that they could not get that conviction in 1995. They're upset that they couldn't get that conviction in 95 and be able to rub it in black people's faces. This is what upsets most of these white supremacists as related to black people. And the most interesting thing for me about this whole situation is that this O.J. Simpson, again, wasn't a person who was about black empowerment, wasn't about black people, and was a black bootlick. And again, shows what happens in the system of white supremacy. It doesn't care. They don't care about your success. They don't care about your money. All they want to do is go out here and see an N-word put in their place. And that is the thing that has many of these racists seething. They could never see this N-word put in his place because this man basically beat them at their own game, and after he beat them at their own game, he went on to live his life, and as he's lived his life, he's gone and continued to live, and that's what upsets them, is that they couldn't really break this man down. And again, the irony here, as I see it, is that this guy basically was a black bootlick, and the bootlick wound up, again, he's the guy who we would think would be the biggest loser in the system of white supremacy, but he wound up beating them at their own game, and that's the thing that bruises the ego of many of these whites and non-blacks who are currently going on racist rants about O.J. Simpson, not understanding that he was living a good life while he was acquitted, and now he's possibly on the other side, and he's possibly on the other side still doing better than many of these racists who want to who are upset because somebody actually had more power than them for the first time. That's what upsets many of these people. I mean, yeah, O.J. Simpson is gone, but the sad part is the racism that created this case is still here, and as that racism is still here, that's the sad thing about this whole case with O.J. Simpson. America just still is as racist and white supremacist as it was before the trial, and after the trial, we just see how much more racist it has become, because even though the juice is loose from this world, the racists are still here, and the racists are still hating on O.J. Simpson, and possibly will be going to his grave, looking to desecrate it the same way they desecrated the grave of Emmett Till. I mean, I wouldn't put it past these racists. If O.J. Simpson had a grave, they would look to desecrate it the same way they desecrate Emmett Till's place, because they are still smarting from the L that shows them for the racists that they are. Now, if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. If you want to see me make more videos about celebrities, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.